Hello, and welcome to the webinar, Secure Your Unstructured Financial Data from Cyber Threats. My name is Eric Wallace with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have a few administrative details to share with you, then I'll turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, we would like to thank Rubrik for their partnership with today's event. They've been wonderful partners to Argyle, and they're committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. Thank you again to Rubrik. We appreciate you joining us today. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active on social media, please use the hashtag ArgyleDigital and follow us at Argyle Exec Forum. Also be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I also wanted to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we've curated based on the feedback we've received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we want to hear from you, so please submit all questions that come up during today's event into the chat section of the interface. Following the discussion, we've set aside time for our speaker to weigh in on your questions. Now, without further delay, let's introduce our speaker and begin our presentation. Today, we're joined by Mike Recker, who is Cloud Solutions Architect at Rubrik. Welcome, Mike. Over to you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time to attend this afternoon. Today, I'm going to walk through securing your unstructured financial services data from cyber threats. So I want to go through today's agenda real quick. I want to walk through what the security challenges we're seeing in the financial services industry, some of the key questions that you may need to address, what our or Rubrik's approach is, the benefit of our NAS Cloud Direct solution. Then I'll go through a live demo. And then lastly, resource next steps, and of course, Q&A. So from a data protection and a security perspective, here's what we're seeing in the financial industry. We're seeing there's a barrage of cyber attacks against financial services. In 2022 alone, we've seen 254 million records get leaked, which makes the financial services industry the second most targeted sector. 1,829 incidents in 2022 versus 721 in 2020, which is more than double. And on average per breach, we are seeing the cost of incident at $5.9 million, which is 28% higher than anybody else in the industry. From an unstructured financial data services perspective, we see this as a high-risk location of data. What that data is and what we've seen in our analysis is high and low-frequency trading data, ticker data, market analysis data, intellectual property, FINRA and FDIC compliant data, and banking data, including but not just limited to check images, payment processing transactions, mobile deposits, and customer statements. So the key questions to address: which one of my financial services data is sensitive, and where does it reside within my unstructured estate? What would be the impact of my business if that data was encrypted? Also, if that data was exfiltrated, what kind of data would they have stolen, and how would you know? The unstructured data challenge is a large one. Legacy backup solutions are not designed for scale, nor are they designed for cyber resilience. We see a lot of solutions that operate snap and replicate. They have limited data security from ransomware. Snapshots, even if immutable, they're under the same credentials as code as production. What you really need to do is look at employing a logical air gap plus immutable storage for a target. We also see legacy technologies such as NDMP, which are very slow and very complex to implement. Disparate file systems and NAS storage systems across major enterprise and across largest states within any member organizations. And really all of it, it's very expensive and very inflexible. What is Rubrik NAS Cloud Direct, and more importantly, how can we help? So it's security and performance for your unstructured financial services data at multi-petabyte scale. The goal here is to modernize your unstructured data protection. So streamline, multi-petabyte scaled NAS data protection with 10x performance of legacy NDMP or other traditional NAS backup solutions. Cyberproof your unstructured data. Safeguard that same NAS data. Detect malicious activity and sensitive data exposure. And last but most importantly, orchestrate faster NAS data recovery and archival. You can rapidly recover or archive NAS data to on-prem, cloud, or alternate targets within your enterprise. NAS Cloud Direct. So how does this work? We're a stateless VM. We run in the middle between your NAS estate and your archive target. And those archive targets can be hybrid in nature. So if you have what we like to call the core four, so Isilon, NetApp, Pure FlashBlade, and Cumulo. And then again, we also support any protocol on the SMB and NFS side if it's generic, if it's not listed as by vendor. We're a stateless VM. We move this data as fast as humanly possible, all the while indexing, detecting for ransomware or malware or malicious attacks and sensitive data to any or all of these targets on the right-hand side. We can write directly to on-prem NFS and S3 storage. We also can write data to any tier of any hyperscaler. So we can write directly to offline tiers for a lower cost. We can write to online tiers for faster retrieval. The choice is yours. So the modern approach is what we've taken. And again, I mentioned we've got our core four here, and then we've got our generic SMB and NFS connectors. It's an infinitely scalable platform that can protect all of your NAS data. We're leveraging storage targets on-premise or in the cloud with retention lock to ensure your data is safe. And it's a first full incremental forever technology. So you're eliminating the reliance on native features such as changeless, snapdiff, or any of the other vendors' proprietary technology. And again, what we see here is we've got the stateless VM. We pipeline all of the security information such as sensitive data discovery and ransomware investigation into our Rubrik Security Cloud, where you can discover things like banker and trading data, FINRA, FDIC compliant data, or other large unstructured data sets that may not have, or that may be in the wrong location within your large unstructured estate. And again, as I mentioned before, you can archive this data to any location on-prem, whether it be NFS or Object S3 storage, and any of the hyperscalers that are listed. And again, we also support additional ones as well, but I want to make sure to let you know that, again, we can archive to any tier of storage within those requisite hyperscalers. So how are we doing this at scale? It's efficient protection with hyper performance. We parallelize all of the data movement, scan, and indexing into one operation. We're latency aware, so we have no impact to storage or NAS systems performance. So if we hit certain thresholds for read or list latency, we will dial back the threads that we employ to move the data as fast as humanly possible. And again, it's multi-threaded parallel operations. And again, as this data is moved through our stateless data mover, it's all in-memory processed. We are indexing billions of files. We are also looking for ransomware and sensitive data. And it's an incremental forever technology of those file shares. And again, lastly, we can write to immutable tiers of storage, on-premise NFS or S3 object storage, and any tier of cloud storage. On the cyber resiliency and how to cyber-proof your unstructured environment, here's how we do it. We're building this on our Rubrik Security Cloud, which was built on zero trust principles. So we have predictable SLA-driven actions. It's an automated process as opposed to the traditional grandfather, father, son, or monthly fulls. Again, with that first full incremental technology. We're checking for data consistency and integrity as well. For user access, we employ strong authentication, granular authorization, and multi-person controls for critical action. Data at rest and in transit encrypted, and secure protocols for third-party systems. We also give you the ability to employ a logical air gap where data cannot be modified, deleted, or encrypted, and backups are undiscoverable to potential threat actors in your environment. On the preservation side, we support immutability, which prevents accidental or malicious deletion, and retention assurance so you can meet your compliance metrics. Data observability. This goes into ransomware investigation. We're going to look for anomalies. We're going to look for, it's a two-phase process that dramatically reduces false positives. We're going to look for backup deltas, we're going to look for anomalies and encryption. So what this is going to allow you to do is determine the root cause and blast radius. In a large NAS environment, you may see a subset of your data get encrypted, not a multi-petabyte environment. It allows you to recover that needle from the haystack, or as we like to say, do a surgical recovery, as opposed to doing a bulk recovery with really no insight whatsoever. It allows for quick recovery and return to operations. And lastly, it really minimizes your data loss. And again, I would be remiss if I did not mention each stateless VM and data mover moves data at 5 gigabits per second full duplex. So that's both restore or recovery and backup at the same time. And you can deploy as many of these as you want in a parallel architecture if you want to get more than that 5 gigs per second. We have several examples of customers that want to run 20, 30, 50 gigs per second based on their backup network. And we're certainly able to do that. The limits are not ours. They're simply customer-based limits when it comes to networking. For sensitive data monitoring, this is also done in with the same methodology. Automated metadata tagging on existing backup data with minimal impact to production. We have 60 analyzers, and we're going to be able to automate the data classification. And you're going to be able to see if you potentially have a threat actor in your environment, you're going to be able to see if this data was exposed. So based on access controls, who has access to what, where is it, should they have access to it? So if there was potentially an exfiltration attack, you can see what data would be potentially vulnerable. Again, access control visibility, protect against unauthorized access in advance, and then automated inventory. You can track and report on what sensitive data resides based on what current and future regulation. How do we orchestrate faster NAS data recovery and archival? Again, all data is indexed for global search, much like our core CDM platform. You can find exactly what you need down to the file level from any point in time and do a recovery from that point. You can recover from anywhere to anywhere. You could recover on-prem or in the cloud to the original source or an alternate target. You also have the ability to get actionable file analytics. We're going to look and scan all your NAS devices and discover all of your data. We can determine when this data was last accessed and last modified based on 4 customizable criteria. In this example here, it's 0 to 30 days, 30 to 180 days, 180 days to a year, and a year plus. And this is down to the file or object level. It also goes up to the folder or directory or share level. It allows you to locate your data quickly anywhere in the enterprise, and whether it's on-site or in the cloud. And it allows you to curate your results so you can migrate data that has been stale or based on your metrics. If data hasn't been accessed and or modified, for example, for a year plus, and it's your policy to remove that from your expensive NAS estate, we can give you the tools and the metrics so you can accomplish that task. All right, that concludes the slideware portion. I think it's time for a demo. And again, if anybody has questions, I would certainly encourage you to put those in the chat window and we will be able to respond to those in kind. All right. For those customers that are familiar with Rubrik Security Cloud and our on-prem and cloud-based backup and cyber resilience solution, the Rubrik Cloud Direct solution is another tile within your Rubrik Security Cloud. So as you can see, these are all my different solutions that we're employing. I've got cloud-based solutions. I've got SaaS-based solutions. Then I've got on-prem based solutions for structured data sets. For NAS Cloud Direct, we offer a simple tile within your Rubrik Security Cloud. And as we log into the Rubrik Security Cloud itself, you can see I'm managing multiple different filers. To add a new system into this environment, it's very straightforward. You would select your system type. Again, these are the core 4 that we support. If your system is not listed on here by vendor name, we simply would add them in by either a generic NFS and or SMB connector. You would add in those solutions, add in the IP address, username, password, and then we will auto-discover all of the shares within any of these environments. So as you can see here in this particular environment, I've got 2 different shares that are currently being backed up. We have several different features here that we can do as well. So not only can we back up data, we also give you the ability to copy data in its native format. Where this comes in handy is if you are looking to do a migration from one filer type to the next, you can certainly do that. Or if you were looking to move data in its native format into a cloud tenant of your choosing, we could move that in there in its native format, and you could run the world-class analytics that our hyperscaler partners provide. Back to the data discover piece. This is the very granular data analysis tool that we give you so you can lifecycle your data. So again, these are the 0 to 30 days, 30 to 180 days, 180 to a year, and a year plus. This is what I had mentioned in the earlier presentation. And this is based on last modified and or accessed. And then you have the ability to go in and create what's called a live view. And you can get very granular here. You can go down to specific files or folders or shares, and you can share this view with specific end users and ask them if that data needs to be there. Does it need to be lifecycled? Can it be cleaned up? Can it be archived somewhere? So it's a very valuable data analytics tool. When it comes to protecting your data, you can create what's called policies, and you have backup or archive. For the purposes of today's demo, I'm going to walk through the backup. And this is where we get very interesting. We allow you to do multiple locations based on frequency. So in this particular instance, if you want to have a dual hyperscaler strategy, or if you do, you can select which bucket you want and which tier you can write to. So for 0 to daily backups, let's say you want to keep them for 30 days, I can keep that on a cool tier, or I can keep that even on a hot tier for quicker retention. Again, if you have that multi-hyperscaler solution in place and you wanted to do monthlies on top of that and write to a different hyperscaler and a different bucket, we can write into any tier of storage, even if it's offline, as I mentioned several times in the presentation. This allows you to really drive down your total cost, as well as give you retention give you our retention policies that meet not only a financial model, but potentially a dual vendor model. This could also be for your daily backups for 30 days. You could keep this on an NFS or a local S3 target if you wanted that quicker retention and needed that data closer to home. And you could still employ one of the requisite hyperscalers as well for those monthlies or yearlies. These are also customizable. You will be able to employ these at a share level as well. So you have the ability to pick and choose what data goes where. It's not a one size fits all per NAS environment. On the data search side, so I mentioned this, for those that are familiar with our core CDM platform, that global indexing and global search is the same technology is also relevant here. So if I wanted to search for all PDFs in my environment, I could do that, or search for directories, or search for file names. We have the ability to do that. And when it comes time to do a recovery of said data, if you wanted to do a restore, you could search through here as well. You could go into any specific file or folder, right down to the file level. And you could, you can restore that to the same location or really any location. So if I wanted to do a different location or an alternate destination, I just simply put in the host name or IP address, the export and share, and then the path, which we'll rename this to rubric restore 1025. So fairly straightforward there in operation. We hear a lot of times when we demonstrate this that it's very simplistic, and that's by design. Now, when it comes to the ransomware investigation and sensitive data discovery, all of that data does exist in Rubrik Security Cloud, which I'm going to show you here in just a sec as I move back to our primary environment. And as you'll see over time, more and more of the operations in the NAS Cloud Direct will be moved into Rubrik Security Cloud, just like with our core CDM solution. So if I did have a potential issue where I was concerned that there was a ransomware event or a cyber event or incident in my environment, in my unstructured data set, I go into our Data Threat Analytics tab. I would go into Anomaly Detection, pick the detection time range that you're looking to search for any potential cyber incident, and I would go into the object type. And in this particular instance, I would go into NAS Cloud Direct. As you can see, we have detected some suspicious activity on one of our filers. If we know of the strain of the threat actor, we will identify that. In this particular instance, we have. It's a lockbit strain. And you can do several different things here. You can stop and you can do a full estate recovery, or you can get more granular. You can look at when the anomaly strain was. You can look at the last several days of what we've deemed suspicious, what's been deleted, what's been added. And as this data gets encrypted across your environment, again, they may not have the time, effort, or energy to encrypt multiple petabytes of data. They may do a subset of that. So if you're looking to just recover that subset or do that surgical recovery, you simply have the ability to go in, select suspicious files, and you can recover them to any source. So you can do alternate source recovery. You can recover to different filers. You can recover to the same filer, same folder. So again, very granular in what you can do, or you can do it again at a very high level. So really the choice is yours when it comes to that recovery option. So again, here, if I wanted to overwrite the original data in place, I wanted to recover to a different folder within the same NAS environment, or export this to an entirely different host, I can do any or all of the above. On the sensitive data discovery side, or the data security posture side, same rules apply. So whether it's structured data or unstructured data, we give you the ability to go in, and in this case, I'll go back into our NAS Cloud Direct environment. I'll look at the same, in this case, we're looking at a NetApp. And we're gonna go through, and we have 60 policies by default. So if I wanna look for credit card information or social security numbers, you name it, we're gonna tell you where those files are. We're gonna tell you who has permissions or who has access via permissions on those files and or folders. So in the instance of if it's allow access everyone all and it's social security numbers or PII, PCI data, or data that would potentially violate FINRA rules, that would be something that you would want to lock down those permissions. You also would be able to deduce that that data could potentially be exfiltrated. It allows you to get ahead of that and lock down your environment and lock down your most critical data. And again, we can get a lot more granular. If I wanted to get into specific file shares and I wanted to look at specific files themselves, we will tell you where that data is and what the amount of sensitive hits are in there. You can download this data. And again, you can look at the permissions. You can see if it's where it's supposed to be and do the right people have access to it. So from a demonstration perspective, I believe that wraps it up. I know from an overall time schedule, we typically schedule demonstrations and overviews with customers for about an hour. With the simplicity and the powerful nature of the platform, we typically see this to be easily deployed and also easily demoed within 20 to 30 minutes. So I do thank you for your time. If you have questions, by all means, please pop them in the chat window and we'll try to answer them as best as we can.
Great. Thank you, Mike, for that excellent presentation. Just as a reminder, as Mike said, audience members can still enter questions on the right-hand side of your screen. And now we're going to review some of the questions that have come in so far. First question is, we are struggling to persuade our leadership to take the anomalies we observe more seriously. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. We see this across our entire customer base, whether it's structured, unstructured, SaaS-based, cloud-based data. It's all over the news. I mean, the real question you need to ask your leadership is, do you want to be in the news? And how much do you want it to cost? There were several articles this week where security companies get hacked. It affects their market cap. It affects their business. What I would really recommend that you do is schedule what's called a Save the Data that our local Rubrik teams offer. We offer a 1 to 3 hour tabletop event where we simulate a ransomware event within your environment. We walk through real-time scenarios, cost models, negative financial impacts, negative brand impacts. So that is something that we've been doing for just under 2 years, and we found that to be very effective. And typically when we get management involved in there, we find that that's a very eye-opening event for them, especially when we talk about the brand reputation loss and the financial loss of these potential anomalies that you're observing in your environment.
Great, thank you. The next question is, we have so much data that we are having a hard time identifying which of it is sensitive. what can we do to prioritize the data that needs protecting the most?
That's a really good question. In the past, when everybody said we had so much data that we can't back it up, the Rubrik NAS Cloud Direct solution really solves for that problem at scale. And with the sensitive data discovery, we will give you the tools with speed, scale, and security that allow you to actually perform those actions where, in the past, we like to call it making the impossible possible based on this groundbreaking technology.
Great, thank you. That appears to be all the questions that we have for today. Thank you, Michael, for that insightful session. This concludes today's webinar, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for this excellent virtual event. And thank you again to our partner, Rubrik. And enjoy the rest of your day.